listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Hello and welcome back to another podcast from the Outdoors Station, and here we are at the Bank Holiday May weekend in the UK. And traditionally this is the time where people dust off their camping and hiking gear and start to stretch their legs once again as the weather is a little bit more reliable, and certainly the surroundings are looking opulent as they're bursting into colour, and the leaves are green and the grass is fantastic, and it just makes you want to get out there and do things, which is what these podcasts are all about. And not only our podcasts, actually, there are a variety of outdoor podcasts, which we're going to touch on a bit later on in the show, which are also encouraging people to get out and about and explore their local area and enjoy the simplest form of exercise there is, just walking or cycling or paddling even, to see what's about you and watching nature unfold as springtime develops. I'm getting very artistic here, aren't I? Creative. I think I'll step away from that one. So what have you got on the show? Well, we have the usual mix of some interviews. We also touch on podcasting, as I say, and talk about new media and old media and how things have perhaps slightly changed just lately. I'm also going to give you an update of where we are preparing for the TGO Challenge. Most UK listeners will know what the TGO Challenge is. It's a 200-mile walk across Scotland, which starts in about 3 or 4 days' time, and I'm going to tell you where we are in our preparation, which might amuse you, and set up the series of podcasts that we'll be doing when we actually do the crossing as well. But on the show itself, just to give listeners a bit of diverse entertainment, we are speak to Roger Payne, who's the editor of Photography Monthly magazine, about how photography is changing slightly and people's view towards it, as well as obviously people who enjoy the outdoors, what they can get from it, and so on. I also talk to Danielle Porter from Malaysia Tourism about the practicalities of taking a lightweight or a backpacking trip over in Malaysia, and how easy it is to get about and obviously save costs and so on. But first, Andy Howell talks to James Morton at the recent destination show up at the NEC. Now, Andy's he's always a tent man, as most people will know. He's a bit of a tent nut. And when he saw a Mongolian ger pitched up at the actual show, it drew him in, and he sat and chatted with James Morton, who is keen to offer trips and sort of custom-made adventure holidays, if you like, over in an area that people don't normally think about. And that's exactly what Andy asked him. Mongolia isn't really the place that people initially think of for a holiday destination.
Well, it should be.
Okay, so come on, sell it to us. It looks, looking at the stand here, it looks fantastic. But so, what am I going to see and do and experience in Mongolia?
Well, first of all, Mongolia is quite a big country, so you might want to pick a particular region to do your outdoor activity. It's about 3 times the size of France. There's no privately owned land in the country, so you're pretty much free to roam where you want. And there's only a population of 2.7 million people, so plenty of room. If you think that half of those live in the capital, there's a lot to explore. It's one of the last sort of unspoilt wildernesses of Asia, really.
So let's say I've got 2 or 3 weeks to explore the area. I want to really get a feel for some of that traditional lifestyle if I can. What would be the best way of tackling it, and what kind of variety of activities could I put together?
Right, well, we're running, in the winter, for example, we're doing dog sledding, and there's a few festivals in the winter as well. The camel herders put a festival on the South Gobi, and there's also an eagle hunting festival. The Kazakhs, they hunt with eagles in Mongolia in the far west. It's an ecological crossover zone, so you've got the Gobi Desert in the south, so you could do some camel trekking down there. In the very far north, it constitutes Siberia, so there's lots of forested areas, larch forests. The reindeer herders are up there, so sometimes we trek and horse trek to visit them over in the Darkhat Depression. And in the far west as well, we do there's a bit of mountaineering. Mount Houghton is a very tall mountain. very close to the Chinese and Russian border. You can actually see China, Russia, and Kazakhstan from the top of that mountain. We also do some rafting in the country.
So how does the tailor-made process work with panoramic journeys, and what kind of service could I expect to get when I'm over there?
Right, well, we're sort of running two types of trips as well. The expeditions, which I've just spoken about, a lot of that's tented camping, but you'll stay in gears as well, in what we call the yurts.
So you're staying in one of these traditional shelters that we've got here?
Yeah, and then when we're getting up, if we're going up a mountain or anything like that, there won't be a gear up there. That's where we use the tents. And we'll also, depending on where we are, sometimes we use vehicle support. In the Gobi, it's a lot easier to do that, but some places where we're going up into the mountains, that's not possible. So we just use horses and camels to carry our equipment. But we also do what we call classic journeys, which are a lot more comfortable. So that's every night you'd be staying in your own gear. So it's very warm. You have a stove and two beds. We have shower and flush loo facilities, and also large restaurant gear as well, which is quite impressive. They're like it's like dining with Genghis Khan sometimes.
How could you resist an invitation to dine with Genghis Khan, I guess? So you can be as adventurous or as you want to be.
Absolutely. If you want me to drop you off in the desert with no water, I can do that.
Fantastic.
Or, put you up a mountain without a compass or whatever, that's fine. But, the other side of it is, we spent, a lot of what we've done is making Mongolia accessible to all sorts of people, so we can make it as rough or as comfortable as you like.
Well, I guess people who've explored areas like the Himalaya and really loved that experience, this is something different. This is a kind of next step, really, into a maybe more wilder, even more traditional kind of a lifestyle.
Yeah, the Mongolian nomads, they're living pretty much. They didn't build very much, but their way of life is practically unchanged. Really, not just the way of life, their beliefs. Their culture, their traditions are almost unchanged.
And how did you discover Mongolia?
Well, I was travelling there in 2002, so not that long ago, and I was in the country for 3 weeks, and by the second week I was thinking of ways to come back, and we decided that wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to lead trips in this country? That's it. We came home. My good wife gave me a kick and said, "Get on with it." And 6 years later, we've been doing it. It's been absolutely wonderful, and we've been doing Bhutan now for 2 years.
Okay, so if I wanted to start having a chat with you about putting together something or looking at a trip, how would I start? I guess I could find you on the web?
Yep, www.panoramicjourneys.com is the website. Have a look. All of our itineraries are on the web, and a lot of other information as well. You could get stuck. A lot of good photographs up there as well. So, that's probably your first port of call.
And the website, once again, is panoramicjourneys.com. And I don't know why, but I've always had this urge to go to Mongolia and ride a horse across it for some reason. It must be something to do with rose and horse riding, but I can't see the point of learning to ride a horse unless you're doing something big. And I think Mongolia would be big enough for me. And talking of big things, the TGO Challenge, as I say, is only a few days away. This is I'm recording this on Bank Holiday weekend, and we leave on Wednesday night to start the challenge. We'll be travelling on the Thursday, rather. Start the challenge on the Friday, and it's pretty well 2 weeks of 300 or so people walking from west to east coast across Scotland. Now, normally we would be super fit by now because Rose and I are sort of fairly keen runners, and Rose is super fit, but sadly I'm not. I've had this niggling foot injury, which every time I exercise has given me jip. So the last few weeks I've been sitting back with my feet up while she's been out swimming and running and cycling and making me sick generally. So when you meet us in Scotland, she'll be the fit bird that's ahead of me, and I'll be hobbling along behind, huffing and puffing, I'm sure. So the fitness levels aside, a lot of people approach the challenge and get out and perhaps a few weeks beforehand and sort of dust off the gear and get used to carrying weight again. Other people perhaps take it a bit more seriously and really do get stuck into the gym and running, and others, because of sort of the age range of people doing the challenge, it sort of generally tends to be at least 50s plus, more likely 60s plus, to be honest, is people who are sort of retired or semi-retired, and there are a few of them, one or two of which I hope to meet on the way across, who are lifelong hikers. They go from one trek to another, and there's one particular guy that I have interviewed before, Martin Banfield, who is part of a walking group, and his entire life and blog seems to be spent hiking, and he goes to some terrific places, so we'll catch up with him. But back to us and our preparations. Well, I'm just going to disconnect this from the main microphone and walk into my room where I have all my gear spread out, and we'll just have a quick 2 minutes on that. Well, I'm going to keep this fairly short because it's pretty much of a muchness, and most people probably listening to the podcast, if they're into general lightweight hiking, will probably be aware of most of the equipment and have got themselves down to the same kind of weights. But simply put, we've just got our gear spread across the floor in a spare room at the moment, and we both tend to have the same type of equipment, but obviously specifically for Rose or I, male and female gear choices, colours obviously in Rose's case do affect things. That's with women, and mine is keep it black, and it's simple. It goes with absolutely anything. So really, what have we got? Well, I've got the new Neo Air, the short new Neo Air, which I'm taking out with a little bit of concern, because it's a fairly lightweight item, and I haven't tested it yet, in other words, in the field. So I might have a quick kip on that over the next couple of days to make sure it's stable. We've got the new Terra Nova Solar 2.2, which Andy has recommended in the past, and we used the previous version, which we found a very good tent. So we're looking forward to that, and that gives you a remarkable amount of space for less, very, very little weight, really. On the cooking front is probably the one that's given us the biggest dilemma. A lot of people will know that we're really pushing the wood-burning stoves at the moment, combined with a meth stove, as being a great flexible camping and cooking tool. And we've been torn between taking a wood burner and a meth stove, or just a meth stove, or gas. Now, this time, because there's two of us, and also the weather forecast at the moment, I saw a recent thing through the Cairngorms, it's going to be fairly wet and cold. And based on the experience I had when I was walking with Lee last year up in the Cape Wrath Trail, I think the wood stove is fine if I'm on my own and I'm prepared to wait for a bit while it gets going, or I get it going, and get food on the run. The thing with walking with women, and I've also we're having our daughter join us for a short while as well, which will be good, is that they tend to get cold very, very quickly. And if we've had a cold, wet day, my job is to get warm food into them as soon as possible and warm them up. And I just would like the reliability of gas, so we've gone over back to gas, and a couple of tea light mugs and a couple of normal mugs, so I can get a brew on the go very, very quickly, and keep them happy. But otherwise, keeping it simple, without going into detail at this stage, we've just got one set of dry clothes, one set of clothes that we wear during the day and rotate using the layering system. So we'll have a base layer, a light fleece, and a wind shirt or a rainproof. One insulating layer, which is my down live jacket, and Rose has got her go light jacket. And that is pretty well it. A couple of Rab Quantum 400 sleeping bags. And the cooking gear is just one spork, one pot, one mug. We've got a folding plate as well, just in case we need a cutting board. And water, a water filter, the new travel tap water filter, first aid kit, and a very, very small wash kit. So that should all go into a pack that's fairly small. We're trying to get it down to 50 litres if we can this year. But of course, it's the food, and as we set out of Oban, we're starting at Oban, we've actually got to carry 5 days worth of food with us, which is a little bit frustrating, and that's where the bulk and the weight will come from. hope that has given people an idea of what the sort of things we're taking when we head off to the challenge. From a as I say, a preparation point of view, a fitness point of view, we're nowhere near as fit as we used to be, or have been on previous challenges. So, but I'm hoping my foot will actually enjoy the regular exercise as opposed to sitting behind a PC, which is how I spend most of my life these days. Okay, they're talking about obviously outdoor people. Most of them have got a general interest in photography, and at one of the recent shows I spoke to Roger Payne, who's the editor of Photography Monthly magazine, and they have also started podcasts as well, which we'll come on to after the interview. But at the time I interviewed him, which was at the beginning of the year, the credit crunch was literally all the news. That's all anybody could talk about. So I started off by asking him if he'd found that photographers and amateurs generally had become more interested in the commercial aspects or commercial possibilities of taking their hobby and using their skills to make money from taking photographs of areas that they're interested in. And obviously in our case I was very interested in people who have got a passion for the outdoors.
I think it's safe to say that, I've still got a regular band of contributors who contribute to the magazine and always have done and probably always will do. I think it's safe to say that in light of what's been going on economically, there have been more people who perhaps have been made redundant or whose jobs are under threat. And consequently what's happening is they are looking at their other skill set and just sort of saying, well, I'm into photography, I've got a digital SLR, can I make some money from that? And so, yes, there has definitely been an increase in the number of people contacting the magazine and offering images for us to use, yeah, I would say so.
And how has it changed now? It's sort of digital is really established as being a quality that is printable in magazines, and high-quality magazines such as yours. How has the trend in the photographer themselves, their confidence in the pictures they're taking, changed since film days?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has increased because obviously the beauty of digital is that you can actually see the images as you're taking them on the LCD on the back of the camera. So consequently, whereas a photographer might, in the past shooting film, have been a little bit unsure as to whether or not he was actually going to be or she was actually going to get the shots, and obviously was going to have a nerve-wracking wait until the film got processed, now they can take a picture, look at the LCD and immediately see whether or not they've got the shot. So as a result of that, people are a lot more confident about their own abilities as a photographer. And the great thing about digital cameras generally these days is that they're all so good, and it's very difficult to take a badly exposed or out of focus picture these days. Whereas a few years ago, as my image files will testify, it was very easy to do that. But nowadays it's a lot harder. I mean, obviously there is still a lot of skill in taking a good picture. It's not about the camera; it's about the person behind it. No, I mean, people are definitely more confident because the cameras enable them to do that.
What about the addition to the mix, of course, Photoshop or any of the other image editing programs? Yeah. I'm sure you must see a whole range of things which are overdone as well as underdone.
Yes, indeed. I mean, people have been using Photoshop as a bit of a crutch in terms of it has kind of, if their images have lacked a little bit of sharpness or something, they've kind of bumped it up in Photoshop. But really, Photoshop is like a filter, really, in that it should be there only to enhance what's already in the image, rather than trying to create something from nothing. And yeah, you're right. We do see some images which are just should never have seen the light of day, really. But because of Photoshop, they have done, and they've sort of created, well, They've not really created anything that's printable, but certainly something better than perhaps it was originally. But no, I mean, Photoshop is very much an enhancer, and the tutorials that we do in the magazine are very much along those lines. It's not all about creating something from nothing. It's not about sticking a cow on the head of on the head of somebody else. It's nothing like that. It's about enhancing what's in the image. So we do obviously use it. I mean, most of the images that we use in the magazine are digital. A lot of them will have gone through Photoshop in some way, shape or form, but just tweaked and nothing more.
Right. With that in mind, and certainly your position in the magazine, seeing the photographs coming through from people who are perhaps approaching you fresh, is it still a nice revelation to see photographs which have got real talent behind them?
Absolutely.
Do you see many of them?
Yeah, I mean, actually, there's a surprising number of people out there who don't know how talented they are, and it's actually we spend a lot of time, I mean, both on our own website and on other people's websites, looking at galleries and contacting people finding them through those galleries and saying, we'd really like to use your pictures in the magazine. And often the first reaction is, blimey, are they good enough? And so it's quite interesting in that respect. But so I mean, definitely, we definitely there is definitely a lot of talent out there, and
And what about stock libraries? What are your views on stock libraries? Because they seem to be growing almost daily, and you've got the established professional expensive ones, and then you've got the micro stock, which is also gaining a big audience.
Yeah, stock libraries do seem to sort of come and go quite a lot. I think with digital, when digital first came along, there were loads of people thought they could make a buck out of stock libraries, same way as obviously people did with digital SLRs. The interesting thing about stock libraries is that you've got the full-on professional ones, which obviously are there for good quality, and if you want to have a very specific picture requirement, then they're the place to go for. And obviously you get the background knowledge because they'll often have trained staff who know exactly who the photographers are, what they're shooting, how they're shooting, and so on. So I'd always err on that side of it if I could. But obviously, in this day and age, where we're all under the financial spotlight, the micro stock libraries, of which there are a number, if you can get an image from them that is close to or nearly as good as that you can get from a professional library, and it costs a tenth of the price, then it's a very difficult argument to justify paying, say, £100 for a picture when you can get something very, very similar that most photographers wouldn't recognise a great deal of difference for £10. So it's a difficult argument to have with the bosses. As a purist, I'd like to justify the extra costs, but as a realist, that's not always the case.
The actual magazine industry itself, as a generalisation, who do they support most of all then when it comes to libraries and photographers?
Well, speaking personally, I like to support individual photographers, and my first option would always be to use either a reader or a photographer who is on one of our databases. As somebody who's a regular contributor to the magazine, I would always rather do that first, purely because it gives them a warm feeling inside, and I think there's a lot of kudos in actually having your pictures published in a magazine, because it's, for a lot of our readers, it's actually kind of, well, I've arrived, I've actually had my image published in the magazine. So that would be my first my first port of call if I was going to use any images, and then I'd probably use the image libraries as kind of a second fallback option if the first lot weren't able to help me out. But I mean, 99 times out of 100, I find that readers and contributors help without any problem at all. It's very, very rare that I have to turn elsewhere.
Has there been a change of late in your magazine away from sort of fashion and glamour images to more landscape due to the legal problems that a lot of photographers are complaining about now, being stopped by the police doing something they used to do 6 months ago quite easily?
We haven't really. We haven't moved away from fashion and glamour. I mean, I know in the 80s, sort of that was glamour photography, particularly, was one of the mainstays of photography magazines. Times have changed, and the reality is that a lot of our readers don't shoot that sort of image. So obviously there is more of a turn towards, approachable subjects, which landscapes are approachable for a large majority of people, purely because you don't have to pose them, they don't run away, you don't have to talk to them, and what have you. There has been sort of more of a turn to covering off more of that stuff, really. Yeah.
I've noticed it on your forum and a few other forums as well. Certainly the issues photographers are having with the legal confusion, really, about whether they can or can't take a picture in a public place. And as far as I know, nothing has really changed as yet, but the rules seem to be moving and they're getting a lot of PR, which is confusing people. Do you have people on your forum that can clarify the situation for those?
Unfortunately, because our forums are very new, we've actually just changed the website completely, and we've redone it. We don't actually have people on our forum who can... And the problem is, I don't know that anybody exists who can actually 100% clarify what the stance is. And I think you just have to be, the day and age in which we are living, if you get a tripod out in a public place, you have to be prepared for the fact that somebody might see that as a potentially threatening activity to the safety of everyone. And everybody knows that self photographer knows that that's not the case. But if that's the day and age in which we live, it's the same way as you can't take photographs of children. It's kind of society, and unfortunate as it is, it's a kind of reality. And I guess if anybody comes up with that, has that sort of problem where they're approached by a policeman or a security guard or something like that, is to actually apologise, and actually not get aggressive about it. Because we don't want, as photographers, as a group of photographers, we don't want to get a bad name for ourselves. We just want to take, nice pictures and good pictures. And I wouldn't want to, hear where a photographer's been, aggressive and then moaned about the fact that they then had their card taken out of their camera or, had a bit of, aggression back. So I just think it's like, if somebody came up to me and said you can't use a tripod here, my first reaction would be, I'm very sorry, I wasn't aware of that. I'm just an amateur photographer doing this. Can I carry on? If they said no, I'd say fine and move on. But it's just the way it is, unfortunately.
All useful stuff. Well, thanks very much indeed for your time on that score. And perhaps you'd like to mention the website where people can find out more about the magazine.
Yeah, the website, thank you for the plug, is it's www.photographymonthly.com.
After that interview with Roger, we were chatting, and he was telling me that Photography Monthly were intending to produce their own range of podcasts, and we got chatting about podcasting and in general, which they've now done, I notice. If you go over to photography, easy for you to say, photographymonthly.com, and the download section, you'll see there's 3 podcasts currently to listen to. I've listened to the first one, which was a review of the Focus show, and I've downloaded the others for listening to later, so that'll be quite interesting. They've also got on the download section a free PDF on the A to Z of making money from your photography, and that might be interesting to outdoors people who have got some great landscapes. Now, talking about links and podcasting in general, new media went through a surge, I suppose, 2 years ago, possibly 3 years ago, where everybody wanted to be a DJ and do podcasting. And it's sort of died down to a trickle now of people that have really got some good content to talk about, and it's well worth listening to. May not be as slick or as professional as obviously mainstream broadcasting, but having said that, the passion's there, and also the information. Now, many people will know Andy Howell and his blog Must Be This Way. Andy's blog site is andyhowell.info and then /trek-blog. And you'll see, he's a very, very popular blogger, so I'm sure if you just type in Andy Howell or Must Be This Way into Google, you'll find him. He covers a whole range of things from a really eloquently written point of view, but also he does a lot of podcasts with me as well. And apparently a year or so ago, he got contacted by Peter Grant, who is the manager of the Interpretation and Education section at the Parks and Wildlife Service in Tasmania. Tasmania, the island off Australia, southern Australia. Beautiful place, have been there once. Anyway, they've now started to produce a series of podcasts thanks to Andy's advice. And I've just downloaded them to have a listen. They've got video as well, so if you're again interested in a bit of a diverse content to do with the outdoors world, then pop along and download those. And the website is parks.tas.gov.au, and under the publication section you'll see the podcast. So I'm looking forward to watching and listening to those and finding out more. And in fact, when I typed in Tasmania into iTunes, this didn't come up, but there are a range of other outdoor podcasts based in Tasmania. So I must make an effort to download some of those and get them onto my playlist to have a listen to. Now, another person that's producing great content is Gary Mittelholtz over in Canada, and his podcast is Doing Stuff Outdoors. And I was listening to I'm on his blog site at the moment, actually. I must listen to this one. I'm sorry, perhaps it's just shows the sort of person I am, but it's curiosity, isn't it? Number 90, we'll hear about the AT tradition where through hikers hike naked on the first day of summer. Okay, that's one for later. But the one I was actually referring to was, move my notes along here, was number 87, where he talks to Kent Zotter. whose trail name is Toothless, as he's one of the hikers on the Appalachian Trail. Now, Kent is a bit of a social animal, and he organises group hikes, and a real sociable group by the sound of it, that do different sections of the AT over a period of time. And what he's also done, I found out through this podcast of Gary's, is that he's got his own range of podcasts called AT Hiking. Again, if you type in Appalachian Trail into iTunes, you'll find it. I think it just comes up as straightforward as AT Hiking. I've just got iTunes here at the moment. Where are we? AT Hiking, the podcast. And he's got currently got 16 episodes on that. And I've downloaded those and had a listen to a few, and again, shares the passion and the love, and also transports you to the location, which is superb. And the link again from him is, I was listening to one of his, and he was talking to a couple of guys who he met on the trail, called Southeastern Backpackers. And they are a couple of buddies that also have a blog. The blog site is familybriefs.com/southeasternbackpackers.com. But again, they can be found on iTunes. And they've got a series of podcasts about their range of activities and things they do. And it sounds like a good couple of buddies having a bit of a laugh, but also talking with knowledge and experience. And they're up to number 62, so there's plenty there to listen to as well. And it sort of concludes, really, that it brings home to me, anyway, that new media has definitely established a bit of a foothold in various areas of interest, and it's good to see people taking the time and effort to do these and share the passion and inspiration. It's inspired me to actually record this again. Get another one out, as it were, because, like everybody, life is rather busy at the moment, and seemingly spare time seems to be a very rare commodity. However, I enjoy doing them. It's great getting the feedback. I had a lovely email from somebody the other day. Sorry, I've forgotten your name because it's not in front of me, but he was telling me that he's actually gone back to 2005 when I first started, and he's listening to every single podcast on the Outdoor Station and on Backpacking Light. So by the time he gets to hearing about this email he sent me, it'll be 2010. And there are a lot of people getting a lot of pleasure and using them for reference and going back and listening to things in the past to pick up information they might have missed the first time round. Anyway, I've probably digressed far too long on that section. I'm now looking for my original notes of what we're actually going to be talking about. We are now going to the exotic place of Malaysia. I've been very lucky. I've been to Malaysia on a backpacking trip myself. In fact, it was the first trip that I took my teenage daughters on, which was a great experience for them. I think they were probably 12, 13 at the time. And it was their first proper backpacking trip, living out of a rucksack, living in hostels, and they've been travelling ever since and grown to be as passionate about it as we have. You learn a lot about yourself, about the world, and about other people when you do that type of thing. So we reckon it's one of the best educations you can get. Anyway, I digress. I spoke to Daniel Porter, who's the marketing manager from Malaysia Tourism at, I think it was the Destination Show, and that we were discussing the fact that Malaysia is an inexpensive destination for the independent traveller once you're there. But first, of course, you have to get there.
Yeah, we have two international flights, one from Heathrow with Malaysia Airlines, and then we have another new service which starts on the 11th of March, AirAsia, which is a low-cost carrier. Basically, they're doing very good flights at the moment. The flight doesn't launch till the 11th of March, though. And then there are other ways. I mean, from Birmingham, you can get flights with Emirates or KLM via Amsterdam and Dubai. And there are other airlines such as Singapore Airlines via Singapore, Cathay Pacific via Hong Kong, so there's enough international flights to get you to Malaysia. It's a 12-hour flight in total.
Yeah, so it's a fair distance, but they're not, I mean, they're very affordable, aren't they? I think they're around the £400 mark or less even.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in today's current climate, everyone's looking for value at the moment, and therefore all the airlines have slashed their prices. So very affordable flights leading in probably around $350 mark at the moment now for a return flight.
Okay, so let's just talk about the independent traveller then, who's picked up a bargain now, and it's obviously going to go to Kuala Lumpur. He arrives, or she arrives. How easy is it for them to find accommodation and get about and explore all the whole variety of adventures that are there?
Very easy. I mean, as soon as you arrive into Kuala Lumpur, they have express train into the city centre, which is around 35 ringgit one way, which is our equivalent maybe of £4 now. That takes 35 minutes. Once you're there, there's plenty of accommodation in Kuala Lumpur. You can literally walk around and find lots of hotels, youth hostels, 3-star hotels at very reasonable prices, leading in at, I don't know, £9 a room a night. So really, it's up to you. Once you're there, there's lots of shopping, restaurants, sightseeing that you can do there, so it has something for everything. And then obviously the diversity of the different cultures that they have there.
That's the one thing about Malaysia that actually struck us when we were out there many years ago, is just that how much it does embrace a lot of other cultures, but there's no tension between the cultures, or that's certainly what we felt at the time.
No, there's you don't feel like there's any tension at all. It's very peaceful. Obviously, it's made up of the majority being the Muslim religion, but it's very much based on Indian, Malay and Chinese culture. So combine the three, there's lots of variety there in terms of food as well.
Yes, that's the other thing I would say that's fantastic about it. Now, the independent traveller, obviously, once he's done the tourist thing for a few days and tuned into the country, he perhaps wants to go further afield. What are their travelling options? There's obviously presumably buses or taxis or flights. I mean, do tell me a bit more about that and the sort of prices.
Yeah, there's such a range to get around Malaysia, and as I said before, Malaysia has something for everyone. For example, it has one of the world's oldest national rainforests, Taman Negara, which once you're in Kuala Lumpur, you can have a private car there to take you there, which is about 2.5 hours and would cost you about £24. Or you can visit one of the beach destinations, Padang, or the duty-free island of Langkawi, which again you can fly with Malaysia Airlines or Firefly. And again, very cheap prices, flight being about £30 for a 45-minute flight. And there are low-cost carriers offering flights between the two for about £12. So, again, it's just very easy to get around. Coach tours are also very popular, trains. It all depends on what the client wants to do, really.
So back to the independent traveller, perhaps somebody who wants a little bit more luxury than the average backpacker, but still wants the adventure and the experience. I know Asia, over the last 20 years, 30 years or more even probably, has been a great destination for the backpacker, and there has always been the beach that they would head to, or the island that was the Inn Island, and so on. Certainly the Langkawis of this world are very much the tourist destination, which have got the package destination. But what sort of islands, where should they go if they're looking for something with a little bit more seclusion?
Okay, well, I would probably recommend the east coast of Malaysia. A lot of people don't know about it yet because it's one of the destinations that hasn't been, that popular in the UK market. But a lot of the backpackers and a lot of people who want rest and relaxation will go to the east coast of Malaysia, places such as Terengganu, Tiaman Island, Redang Island, and that's also great for people who love diving as well. And again, very cheap value for money, stretches of beaches that are very uncommercialised, where you'll find it's just amazing to relax and find beach huts and just have fun, basically.
So I mean, you obviously have a great experience of Malaysia, and you've been several times yourself, I'm sure. What sort of budget should people be looking at if they were looking for a small independent holiday on their own, and they were sort of humble, but they wanted a little bit of comfort and security? What's a daily budget, would you say, as a rough average?
Oh, I mean, food is very cheap. If you eat off the local stalls, it's about £1. And if you're staying in one of these beach huts, £9 a beach hut a night. They probably are cheaper. I may not have experienced them, but yeah, I mean, you could easily get by on £15 a day in Malaysia, just because food is so cheap, and it's very safe to eat the food off the stalls as well.
I was going to say about the safety aspect of it, there's the food issues, but also sort of general travelling safety. Again, based on the religion of the country, I always felt quite safe there, but is that still the same now? Yeah,
I mean, I'm quite happy. I mean, like anywhere in the world, you have to be cautious if you're walking around a city centre with your handbag or whatever. But that's everywhere in the world, and generally, as someone who goes out to Malaysia a lot on their own, the safety is fine there. I feel quite safe going out in the evening on my own. there are some areas that, you know, someone may not wish to go to on their own, but I mean, we've never heard of any real issues for safety that I've experienced during my time at Tourism Malaysia. So I'd feel more than safe, especially the East Coast. There's so many people around that you're always seeing someone or bumping into someone and meeting new people. And the culture, obviously, they're very friendly people. So people come and speak to you if they don't know you because they just like to meet English people.
The getting about of it, there's quite a few airports now compared to when I was there last, which was about 5-10 years ago, I suppose. Getting across the country by plane would certainly knock off a few hours, but is it affordable?
Yeah, it's very affordable. A lot of people have actually started doing self-driving as well, actually picking up a car and driving down the east coast of Malaysia. But yeah, no, I mean, taxis are very affordable, flights are very affordable. I would probably say a flight. If you were flying between Penang and Langkawi, for an example, which is 45 minutes, you can pick up a flight for £9 if you didn't want to have the ferry option. So there is so many cheap ways of getting around.
So in this day and age, it's definitely a bargain destination to keep your eyes open for low tickets for.
It is, and the key for this year, everyone seems to be looking for value, and Malaysia certainly has that value to offer.
So even though it's cheaper, it's actually still giving you quality, which is the main thing, isn't it?
It is. It's a lot of people say that the quality there is unbelievable because you can stay in a 3-star hotel in Malaysia and it's the equivalent of a 5-star hotel in the UK.
Finally, you're a very blonde person. How do you actually get on over in Malaysia?
I'm actually okay, yeah. Obviously, the obvious question people ask me is, you're not actually from Malaysia, are you, Danielle? Well, no, I'm not, but no, fine. You know, there's no... people do ask me this question. They're like, being very blonde, do you find that a lot of men are like attracted to you because obviously they don't see it very often? No, that's not the case at all. You know, they're very respectable. They're a very respectable destination. And
so you don't get troubled as a single female traveller?
No troubles whatsoever. I feel more than safe when travelling to Malaysia on my own.
Well, that pretty well brings the show to an end. Thanks to Daniel from Malaysia Tourism. The website once again is tourism-malaysia.co.uk. Also to Roger Payne from Photography Monthly magazine, and to James Morton from Panoramic Journeys. All the links, of course, will be in the show notes to shortcut to their particular websites. Thanks also to Andy for his contribution as well, and also thanks to all the other outdoors people that are producing podcasts for keeping me inspired and keeping the passions to share the love and appreciation of the world around us while we've all still got it. Anyway, I better sort myself out, get this podcast edited and uploaded, and while I'm doing that, I need to sit down and start to go through my food, which I haven't prepared yet for the TGO, as I need to post that ahead and get shot of that on Tuesday, Wednesday. Yes, I'm leaving it a bit late, but hopefully, like all good plans, it'll all come together in the end. Anyway, take care, everybody. Have a good, safe springtime, and don't forget to just get out there and enjoy it. Bye for now.
This independent programme has been brought to you by The Outdoors Station, the exciting new way to see and hear free information about the outdoors world. If you're a blogger, or if you have a website, you can now incorporate any of these podcasts directly to your site, completely free. Visit our website, theoutdoorstation.co.uk, for more information.